Good morning, everybody. How are you
Good
doing?
morning. Good morning.
It's good to see you and for you to be here. We have the privilege this morning of talking to Mr. Ralph Preston, and he is a stroke survivor. And I met him. It's kind of a funny story. I was walking and videotaping it, and I put it on my group page, and he told me, he said, that's not right. Everyone was giving me praise and doing everything. He said, you're dragging your foot. You're dragging your foot. And then he and I started chatting privately about it. And it was like, he told me, I wasn't trying to be critical. I just want you to make sure that you're doing it right. So that's how I end up becoming friends with him, and he's given me a lot of knowledge and telling me about his YouTube. He has a YouTube, and it has all types of exercises that he has developed over the years that are really helpful. So take it away, Ralph.
Okay. Well, thank you for the kind words, Brenda. A lot of the exercises are basic things that I learned in physical therapy, or I adapted from physical therapy to my home, because I believe that you need to be exercising at home every day if you want to get better. You don't get better going to the physical therapist 2 days a week. Anyway, one of the reasons I'll talk about my stroke in just a second. The reason I do what I do is when I got released, I'm 14 years out in April, so it's getting pretty close. So I'm saying 14 now. And at the time, there weren't a lot of Facebook groups. There were no Facebook groups. There were no YouTube channels. I couldn't find a single video on stroke recovery on YouTube 14 years ago. Not a single one.
Oh,
And
wow.
So I'm just trying to be the guy that I wish, or the person, because it could be a woman, certainly. I'm just trying to be the person that I wish I could have talked to after my stroke. Plain and simple. Try and make it a little easier for everybody else. So I was 58 years old when I had a right side hemorrhagic stroke, left side affected, standard, hemiplegia, paresthesia in my face and hand. Still have it. Wasn't aware of it till I started talking about it again, because I've kind of learned to just tune it out. And that's an important skill if you can manage that. It's right up there with paying attention to your body. Anyway, so I made a pretty good recovery, mainly because I'm a maniac, and I'm intense still. I was even more intense before the stroke, but I came home and I just started going at it 10, 12 hours a day from the time I got up until dinner time every day. And the only time I didn't do it was when I had doctor's appointments and things. And even then I kept a hammer and rubber bands and clothespins and stuff like that in the car. And I'd do OT on my hand while we were driving, and I never sat in the car. I encourage people not to sit in the car. If you end up going shopping with your significant other, spouse, friend, whatever, get out of the car and go in the store. Get behind a shopping cart. They're the best darn walkers in the world.
They are.
They are. And I've actually have tried. You cannot hit your shins on the shopping cart, even if you pull it into your tight. Nope, can't do it. So what I actually take stroke survivors shopping with me as part of the therapy. I'll just pick them up and we'll go shopping. I'll do my grocery shopping. And I'll tell them I'm going over to the dairy. Meet me over there. And by the time they get over there, I'm going to the next place. And I just have them ping pong around the store, or at Home Depot. Go to the back aisle and walk from one wall to the other with a shopping cart. Anyway, I made a good recovery, and fairly early on, I started. Well, actually, the story goes that two of my friends said that when they visited me in the rehab hospital, I was already talking about helping people. I have no recollection of that whatsoever, but like I told them, kind of sounds like me, doesn't it? Anyway, so I didn't do much helping of anybody. I spent 15 months doing that intense every day, 7 days a week, 10, 12 hours a day. No, I didn't take a nap. People don't understand that. I literally pushed through it. There were times where I wanted to. I found that by challenging myself sometimes, by showing up on video shoots that I already had booked before the stroke, I wasn't sure I could do them. I found that by, and I went and did them, and I went, oh, okay, so, you know, check another one off the list. And I found that by, like, promising myself or other people that I would do things kind of put me in a, like, situation where I had to do them. And I found that good for my recovery. Remember, everybody, I said I'm a maniac. Anyway, so I did that for 15 months and I pretty much quit. I told everybody, I am tired of pulling on rubber bands. And I said it just like that. And of course, I was doing more than pulling on rubber bands. I was walking and everything. And I didn't completely stop. I still did a little minor therapy on my hand. And I made sure I walked every day. And, you know, but by that time my walking was pretty good. So, but by, you know, let's see, I moved down here at 18 months. I started running a stroke group. I started meeting people. I started helping people about 12 years ago, about 2 years after my stroke. And about 10 years ago, I was running a stroke group and I got introduced to, well, I started meeting local stroke survivors and I started working with them, one in particular through the stroke group. And then she had a retired physical therapist who was volunteering at a free clinic, and he fixed me up with worked with 13 local stroke survivors. Larry probably found 7 or 8 of them for me. And I would go to their houses and their homes and do physical therapy with them and teach them stuff. So when I was doing that, that was kind of my maintenance program. I said I didn't do any therapy anymore, but I actually went to people's houses and got them a grab bar and stood next to them at the counter and said, and counted out high stepping. All right, here we go. 1, 2, and do it right along with them. It was one way to make sure they did it. So that's basically, you know, the story of my stroke. I guess I ended up about 5 years ago forming Facebook group Stroke Buddies, and I run another one for the Medical University of South Carolina's Stroke Recovery Research Center, the only one like it in the country, where they do studies and trials on things to figure out what works in recovery, which is what I think ought to be going on a whole lot more. But you know, I'm not here today to get up on that soapbox. So go ahead and you know, we'll open it up to some discussion.
I want to ask you something about a person's attitude from the moment that they realize, okay, this is a new me, and they have to take that in, but about the attitude that they should have.
Well, I can talk about that, and I'm not, you know, I'm going to talk about it like in theory or on a piece of paper, if you will, and that would be, you know, how I see it. And I understand that, you know, I mean, I went through depression. I was on antidepressants for 18 months, and I probably didn't need to be the last number of months, but we were getting ready to move, and my wife asked me to stay on till, said moving's stressful. Would you mind waiting until we got moved? And so I said, sure, no problem. So I went through all this. So I'm not making light of it if I just lay out what I think the you know, the progression is here. And that's, you know, when people ask me, oh, somebody had a post in one of the groups, what's the most important thing or concept or device or whatever in your recovery? And I wrote down attitude. Everybody wrote down something, you know, my bio-ness or something like that, or my sister or my husband or whatever. Somebody wrote courage to do the things that I would be afraid to do. I thought that was a good one. I wrote down attitude because when I got released from the hospital, I'm a video guy, and I said, this is crazy. They're sending 800,000 of us home every year to reinvent the wheel for ourselves. This is just stupid. And, you know, I said, Ralph, you got a video camera. You've been in the communications business for 35 years at that point, 30 years. You know, do something about it. So I started to try to, and I thought, you know, I wanted to do exercises and things you could watch on your TV and do along with and that kind of thing. And I realized nobody'd do them if they had a crappy attitude. You know, so attitude, so I said, well, need to add a whole section on attitude. The best way to do that is talk to some stroke survivors who had positive recoveries and give people hope. And, you know, that's what we're in the business of, you know, with these stroke groups and trying to coach people, is give them some hope that, you know, here are other people that got out the other end of the tunnel. You can do it too, and we're here to cheer you along. So I think attitude is absolutely the most important thing, because without it, you're not gonna get out of bed and do what you need to do. So, and I see a lot of people going through this, the whole, I want to go back to the old me. I miss the old me. And I understand this. I see Bob shaking his head because he's probably been able to do what I did. He reminds me of myself in my recovery, but we'll talk about that in a minute. You know, no one's going back. You know, if your stroke was 6 months ago, and even if you didn't have, okay, so you got a twin brother and he didn't have a stroke, he can't go back 6 months either. And guess what? He's changed too. It's just unrealistic thinking. Okay, remember, I'm doing this like theoretically on a, you know, in a, like a term paper or a pad. So it's not, you know, you can't tell somebody just get over being depressed. I mean, it's something that has to come from them. But it's really key. And the reason it's key is because while neuroplasticity lasts a lifetime, there is definitely more closer to what they call insult or injury. So your brain knows that, you know, and it goes into a mode that lasts approximately 6 months. I don't know how they determine that, but it seems to be the number that scientists are kicking around. So I got to go with it. I'm not a neurologist or neuroscientist. But I talk to them regularly, and that's what they insist. So, so you need to jump on that neuroplasticity like Bob is doing. And I see a lot of people, even, I'm not saying they're having a pity party, they just haven't really accepted what's happened to them yet, okay? And one of my big things is, I see this in the groups a lot. People think when you say, you got to accept what happened to you, they think that you're telling them to quit, to give up, you know? And that's not the case. You can accept what happened to you and do the right thing and deal with it. I see Bob shaking his head again because he understands this.
Right.
We want to talk a minute about your experience, Bob, because you
Sure.
were lucky enough to get over it quickly, and that's what I'm trying to encourage other people to do.
I'm 1 month, 1 week into this, and so I've had a lot of people say, you know, it's amazing how far I've progressed in my journey. But when it happened and the neurologist came in, oh, can you push your foot? Can you move anything? And I couldn't do a darn thing. I had total right side was shot. Nothing was working. And, you know, you're sitting there in bed thinking about it. And when I had, and also with, you know, not only did I have a bad stroke, but I also am type 2 diabetic. So, you know, a lot of these things play into each other. And so as I'm progressing through this, I had a nurse come in and she talked to me about being diabetic and what my numbers were at the time. And she said, look, get away from what could have, should have, and all that other negative back stuff. You know, it is what it is. It's today. And all you can do is move forward. And you need to just not even think about what it was yesterday. I mean, less than a week prior, I was out hiking in Utah, and I was out doing, you know, Bryce Canyon and doing all these amazing hikes. And I kept thinking to myself, what if I had a medical issue? I'm out in the middle of nowhere by myself. And because the wife started going up some of these mountains and then goes, oh, I'll just wait for you in the car. And, you know, so I'm out there. And then I actually did get lost for a little bit. I had to look on the ground and I see footprints going in 5 directions. I said, well, somebody's gone one of these 5 paths. I'll take one and hopefully run into someone. And sure enough, I did. And then luckily, that couple had been on those trails for about 5 or 6 times. But the main impact for me was the day that one nurse just said, don't think about what you were doing yesterday, how good you were, and how, you know, thinking you're going to get back to it. This is where you're at. This is what's going on. And all you can do is, you know, an hour from now, can you maybe move something? You know, what are you going to do? What's your plan to move forward? Because that's all you have. You know, so plan for tomorrow. And luckily, when I joined some of these Facebook groups, and yours in particular, one of the people I did hook up with sent me one of your videos, and I couldn't move a darn thing. I mean, I took the ambulance ride, went home, was in bed for a day or two, no movement, you know. So yes, you think about it for a little bit, but yet you constantly think, what am I going to do about this? How am I going to get there? And when I saw one of your videos and it just said, focus on thinking about it. Take your good hand, fingers, arm, legs, whatever, and move what doesn't move. You know, teach your brain to say, hey, I want to wake up and I want this to happen. And, you know, I had a phone call from one of the neighbors. And next thing I knew, you know, he's asking how I'm doing. I'm looking down after I focused that morning on moving my fingers. Nothing was happening. Then I turned around and I'm talking to a neighbor and he's asking how I'm doing. I looked down and my pinky finger moved only a 1/16 of an inch. That was the first indication that I had, 1/16 of an inch. I can't tell you how overjoyed I was over that. And, you know, one of the things I learned from Brenda is take time to really celebrate those small little successes, because that's what you got to think about. Okay, I have a 1/16. Maybe tomorrow I can move it a 1/4 inch. You know, what am I going to do to keep progressing? And that's where, you know, I appreciate the resources, like all your experiences, Ralph, experience from other members in this group. And Brenda keeps reminding all of us, be positive, you know, and whether you're looking for that next quote by somebody who uploads that, or they share their experience on what happened to them, you got to keep building. You got to keep working, grab every inch you can, and make sure you have some sort of goal by the end of the day. You've accomplished something. It could be just learning. It could be watching one of your videos. You know, what are you going to do to learn to go forward? That's what I found to be very helpful. And then people keep, you know, helping out with, oh, you know, get a knife that has a big, huge grip. I posted one, and on this huge grip, I found out another thing that a lot of therapists do. They take like a piece of foam and put it over the handle of the knife, so it creates even a bigger grip. So there's a little tip for the day that I had no idea. And they said when they go to wash the knife, they just pull that big foam piece out, wash the knife, and then put the foam piece back. But you know, the first thing I could grab was just nothing more than a dry washcloth. And I was excited. I had it on the bed. I went over there with my affected hand, grabbed it, and tried to raise it. You know, it was next to nothing, but it was something. And then celebrate that success. So learning daily over everyone's experiences, thankful that everyone has certain things to think about. Someone mentioned, you know, a weight set. I started out grabbing and I lifted 5 pounds, way too much. I mean, you know, I couldn't do all that. But then somebody said, take something simple like a water bottle and just, you know, even if you drink half of the water out of it, you know, start with something and then maybe progress to a full water bottle and try to raise it. Maybe you only raise it 6 inches off the table. Next time, maybe you go a foot. You just, whatever it takes daily, and be thankful for, you know, how you progress. And if you get stuck in a rut, go back and see where you were at yesterday so you can look forward to tomorrow, because you've already progressed. So what are you going to do to move that next inch? That would be my suggestion for everyone. And thank you for all the groups and all the stories. I really greatly appreciate it.
I wanted to tell you, your water bottle inspired me. I started picking up my water bottle with my affected hand and doing weights, like lifting it up and down, up and down, up and down. And I wanted to tell you, I know I did before, but I just tell you how much I appreciate the fact that you were showing that you don't have a problem with showing the exercises and how you're doing them, and just saying, okay, I'm celebrating this moment. And I love to see all your little songs and memes. It's just it's really funny, but it's showing that you are celebrating those accomplishments, and that's good. I want to tell you this. My daughter told me when I finally woke up in ICU, she was at the foot of my bed and she was crying, but she was doing it silent, and I could see her eyes watering. I said, "Where am I at?" She said, "You're at the hospital." And I said, "Okay, so what's going on?" She said, "Mom," she said, "I want you to look at me and listen." I said, "Okay." She said, I said, "My right side is so heavy. What's going on?" And she said, "Listen to me." She said, "You had a stroke. You have 1 minute to cry, and after that, you fight. You start fighting." And that's what I live by. I live by the fact that I had 1 minute to cry. I didn't cry. I said, "What do I need to start doing? What's the process? What do I need to do?" And I started just keeping a positive attitude from the point that I found out to right now. I'm not going to say that every day is going to be a good day. I'm not saying that, but find some good in that day. That's all you need to do. And it works. It does work, because I'm a go-getter. I have a bike under my desk that I will ride for 2 and 3 hours with no problem, because I listen to motivational speakers or I'll listen to some music and you forget that you're riding. So it does some good. It's just, you have to have that will. You have to have that want. No one else can have it for you. It has to come from within, and you go from there.
Increase your why. I mean,
yeah.
You know, it's somebody, well, we talked a little bit about this. I had a nice chat with Ralph last night, and I said, one of the things that I started doing, since I now have mobility with my affected hand, I said, my next post I think I'm going to do for today is just simply opening up my, my medicine bottles, the med bottles. When I take a supplement or a pill, I used to always, mostly everything was done with the good hand. Now I've reversed it, and I'm trying to use my affected hand as much as possible. And then the other thing that we were talking about was try to make a game out of everything. It's amazing how when things are a game and a challenge, your brain kind of goes in a different direction. And how long can you stand? I started making popcorn sitting down in a wheelchair. Now I'm standing up. Can I last long enough for that popcorn to finish popping? And maybe I can open up the bag and maybe I can pour it in a bowl and do all that. And it might be 4 or 5 minutes before I go sit back down. But it's kind of like my own little game. How long can I last before I get too tired that I have to sit? So I challenge people to find things, the different tasks that they're trying to accomplish. Maybe you include it in some sort of game, and that tricks your brain a little bit. So you don't think about, oh, I'm trying to do the same thing, boring. I want to do 10 reps. Try to make it like a game, and maybe you can go farther faster.
The other thing about something like standing up with the popcorn is if you don't make it in the beginning, then you try it tomorrow and you say, oh, okay, Okay, yesterday I had to sit down right as the popcorn was ready. Today I got to do the bag. Tomorrow I'm going to be able to butter it, you know? So it makes it measurable. And one of the things that's important to do is pay attention to your progress, because you're going to have those days where you want to cry for a minute. And it's good to get back in touch with your successes. I'm also a big believer in setting small goals, daily goals, like you're talking about, because you can make them achievable. And when you achieve things, then you feel successful, and success builds on success. So you can kind of keep the momentum going. The other thing about making things into games and such is, it's the way the gloves and the balls and the computer games all work. They're distracting you from thinking about physical therapy. You're not standing there going, oh, God, I don't want to do this. I dread this. You're involved in something. So the engagement, I think, would quite possibly make you, I've heard people say that I feel like I do it longer because I'm not I'm not thinking about the time so
Right.
much. So a couple other things. So Bob, you covered the whole mental imagery thing. I used to tell people that, and about imagining, your movement, and I thought they thought I was crazy. Now you and several other people have said, "Hey, it worked for me too." So I feel good about that. It was something that was told to me. The concept of therapy is all around you was not particularly told to me. They told me to involve my hand in as much as I could. But like you, one day I went to physical therapy and they had me pull the spindles down off of the top shelf, those plastic cones, and you can stack them up on top of each other. Sometimes they use them on the floor to make you walk an obstacle course. And so they had me pull them down and they had me put them back up. Well, that night I was getting down the vitamins with my unaffected hand, and I went, wait a minute now. How different are these vitamin bottles on the top shelf than those spindles? Not at all. So I started taking them down. I actually took them down and put them back up, like 7 or 8 different vitamins, and I'd do it like 10 times. I'd bring them all down, put them all back up. And then I started opening them. Yep, that's my affected hand. And opening them with it. I did what I called to you. I just coined phrases for things. I called it the left hand Olympics. Like I was involved in the left hand Olympics all day, every day. So especially in the early days, I sometimes still do this, but I don't necessarily think about it. And I'm recovered to the point where I'm not focused on my therapy all the time. But I used to do stuff like I'd carry the pitcher in my left hand, then I'd put it in my right hand so I could open the refrigerator door with my left hand. Then I'd leave the refrigerator open, put the pitcher back in my left hand, put it in the refrigerator, and then close the door with my left hand. Anything and everything you can do, because therapy's all around you, and the more you involve it, the more you're engaging your brain. One of the things that I didn't know about, there are 2 things I didn't know about, and that was massed practice. If you do your therapy in a bigger block of time. Now, it was when Dr. Hetzler presented this, he was talking about Dr. Taub and the 4-hour study, and I got all kinds of people who were thinking they had to do one exercise for 4 hours. No, and you don't have to do 4 hours. The concept is, if you do 4 hours a day, you're better off doing them from 8 to 12 than you are from 8 to 9, 10 to 11, 1 to 2, and 3 to 4. Somehow or another, your brain builds better blueprints when you engage in what's called mass practice. So I just fell into that because I was doing it 10, 12 hours a day as a complete maniac. So that served me well. And the other thing that no one told me it existed was bilateral therapy. I was trying to get my hand back. I wanted to roll my fingers like I can do with my unaffected hand. I can do it with my affected hand too. But what I did was There you go. I can't believe you're doing that at 5 weeks. Opposition. You got to get out to the end of the pinky, but the fact you can touch your pinky or move your hand at all at 5 weeks is, is pretty good.
And that's all I keep doing is like, I think about it and I see other people, on videos do this. And in regards to videos, whether it's a Facebook group or a TikTok, one of the things that's really helped me is watching, it's like a physiotherapist, it's a yoga instructor, it's chiropractors, it's just people that have a skill set on movement. And, people like this one, I think she's called like chair yoga or something, and she's just in a chair all the time, but there's people that have issues. And so she does different movements and I see those, and I like, okay, I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to try it. And, and different times, like you said, most of my thinking is done in the morning, but then by the evening, afternoon, sometimes I get a little tired and I think that's part of being diabetic. But then all of a sudden I'll start thinking about, hey, I want to try this. And in the evenings, different times I'll get excited and I'll say, okay, I had that video and that person moved their arm a certain way, or they moved their hand a certain way. Now, one of the things that I was challenged with just recently is take change and dump it onto the table and flip over, pennies. If it's heads, make it tails, and try to do about 10 of those. And so that's like one of my next challenges is, just flipping coins over, because it's going to take practice to do all that. I mean, when I first started with the movement, my pinky barely moved. Then it was my thumb, and my thumb tended to go side to side, a little movement.
Right.
And somebody said, okay, the next thing is try to turn your wrist where you have your thumb facing the ceiling and try to do a hitchhiker. And so all of a sudden it was like, hey, I can go ahead and raise that thumb. And, now I'm doing just like a hitchhiker. And the first time I did it was just a little bit. That's all I could do is just raise it a little bit. It would always want to go side to side, would be much easier. I couldn't get much lift. And now it's extended, it's up there. So again, you just keep working it. And if I wake up in the middle of the night, I'll take my hand and I generally spread the fingers. And then I also go for the lift of fingers, and like, I wish I could do my index finger a little, it's going pretty good today. Before it would always want to stay over like that. Now I can, I push it to go straight up is what I'm going for.
I see your brain working.
You just try to figure out a way to connect everything and be thankful for what you got and keep going. And sometimes like all these videos that you've done and everybody, I'm listening to stories, you take what you got that works and you help teach the brain which way those fingers have to go, right. And then, I had nothing for grabbing. So a lot of it was start with a little pushment, take those fingers and do a little resistance training. Same thing with my foot. I mean, I'm not able to walk yet, but I'm working on it. Taking that grab bar, putting it on the counter, do the high steps, just get the weight and balance back. When you're sitting in bed for so long, so many weeks, it's harder to get started again and to get up and to get balance. I've seen even where people are using a foam block and trying to stand on a foam block. I think the other day I was watching someone's video where they're learning how to get back up. And I kept thinking about being in like grade school, you'd have those old gym mats on the wall and they drag them down. It's like, boy, that'd be nice to have like one of those little cheap gym mats. And probably at some point I need to go ahead and get on the floor and start doing some stretching, some crawling, and figuring out how to get up if I ever got back down. Those are things that I'm starting to think about in the morning is those next progressions of what's going to get me to the ability to walk. So
just keep doing what you're doing. It's also interesting, as I said, you reminded me of me. I got my hand back fairly quickly, and somebody told me that people that jump on their hands often get their hand back better than other folks. And the people I know that jumped on their hands actually got a lot of hand movement back in parallel or even before they or were walking real well. Mine was kind of in parallel. I got two things to show you, Bob. One thing for wrists you can do is punch. And if you start with your fists up like this and then rotate them. And it's good for the shoulder. It's good for wrist rotation. So you just punch.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned the shoulder, because I did see your video about the shoulder shrugs. And just starting with that. And that's what kind of, I mean, I had the ability to do a shoulder shrug, you know, and then I watched somebody else, she was some sort of therapist, and she said, roll it forward, roll it back, you know, do them up, and you know, look in the mirror and try to get some, you know, try to go ahead and make whatever this one does, that one does.
Very good point, because I'm a huge believer in posture and symmetry. You know, when you walk like this, you know, you gotta get straight before you know, right, Winnie? Got to get all the way straight. Winnie's come up about halfway from where she was. It's a natural thing. I'm not picking on her. And you know, like I said, like Brenda said, you know, if I tell somebody something, I'm hesitant sometimes. In my group and Brenda's group and Young Stroke, people know that I mean well. In some of the other groups, I'm a little hesitant after 67 people have said, "Great job, wish I could do that," and to go, "No, you're doing it all wrong. Your upper leg's weak." You know. Anyway, so that's one thing. I was talking about bilateral therapy. So what there's so many things you mentioned. We did chair yoga. I'm actually going to. I've got the domains stroke yoga and speech yoga, and I want to do both speech and yoga class where you can do it along with it. I'm also going to do some of my counter exercises. I recently discovered that YouTube, you can play the videos at 75 or 50%. So I'm going to go ahead and do like a 45-minute workout, and people who can't do it that fast can play it at 75 or 50%. I've wanted to do this for a long time. But one of the things that really served me well was, if you want to know what this side's supposed to do, you just look over here at what this side can do. So that's what I was trying to do when I rolled my fingers. So this hand wouldn't work at all, and this one did. So I said, what if I do them both together? Well, this side worked a lot better. So I would do a few like that, and then I would try them, and it'd be awkward again after a couple, so I'd do it again. I'm just going to show you real quick something. Okay, so I don't do much back here behind my head with my hands, and I intentionally haven't built this up so I can keep doing this demo. Wendy's probably seen it 3 times. But, so I'm kind of weak like doing this. So if I do this is my affected arm. It's really kind of jerky. Not very good at all. Okay, so that gives you the idea, right? Okay, watch what happens if you do it with both hands. Watch my left hand. Watch my left hand with the watch. You see how much smoother that is? Definitely. Now watch this. 2. Nope, falling apart. I only patterned myself 3 times. So you can do that with almost anything, Bob, and everybody else out there. So what you do is you don't do it well, you do it together, you pattern your brain, you go doing it with the affected hand or leg or whatever you're doing it with until it falls apart. As soon as it starts falling apart, you go pattern yourself again. You can do this, son. One of the things I show is, what is that, foot placement video. At the end of it, it just happened while we were shooting. I said, okay, do it, no hands. I told my camera guy that I was going to do it. I voice him over so I don't talk during him. But I didn't do it very well, so I said, hang on sign, and I patterned myself, and, right there you can see that I couldn't do it. I patterned myself, and all of a sudden I can do it. And it's with a leg, not just an arm. So bilateral, sometimes called mirror therapy, but I don't use that term anymore because it's too easy to confuse it with mirror box therapy, which is very different. So, one of the things that you have done, Bob, that I think is really important, there are two things, and I suspect you have the second one as well. But I see the people that don't see everything as a problem doing better. Okay, so you're really good at adapting, like I was. Okay, so if you can't do something, you break it down. If you can't, do something yet, you try the pieces of it. You just keep at it, and you can make popcorn into therapy. Therapy is all around you, and the people that embrace these concepts after, of course, they've taken responsibility for their recovery and said, I'm the only one who's going to make me better, so I better kick butt here, because somebody else is going to come along. The cavalry's not coming. I got news for everybody out there. They're not on their way. It's up to you. I know I'm being dramatic, but,
it's what it is.
That's true.
You kind of got to, I think some folks could stand a little bit of a kind shaking up, I sometimes shake people up a bit, and the very next thing I do is extend my hand with perhaps the solution as well as the kindness. So, that's sort of what Brenda described. I didn't just pick on her. I told her what I thought and tried to follow up and help her change it. And darn if she didn't pretty much stopped dragging that toe in about 2 weeks. I think you posted a second video. So
I'm doing it now with no cane, and I'm walking outside, and I'm doing it really well and walking backwards like 60 feet.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I don't know what your balance is, and I don't want to suggest anything that, might cause you a fall or something. But for me, walking on my heels was a complete game changer. Once I walked on my heels, the whole heel-toe pronation, dorsiflexion, forget it. I didn't have to really, I didn't necessarily drop all the ankle stuff, but everything fell into place. I started landing on my heel. Even the roll, it helped it just built up the whole foot because you have to hold your toes up. So even when you roll off your toes, it just seemed to help with everything. But it's not something that you can, I don't recommend it to anybody who can't, do a basic, 50 or 100-yard walk without a cane. And if I would suggest doing it like in the grass in the backyard, like I did the first time. When I was recovering, I walked in my driveway, which is concrete. But if I was trying something new or I wanted a challenge, I would go into the grass because when you can't pick your foot up, a grass clump is an obstacle. Brenda, you'll keep moving that foot up, but when you first stop dragging it, you're only lifting a quarter of an inch off the ground. So you go out and get out in the grass, and grass clump is like an inch high. So it's a real challenge. I'm a big believer in challenging yourself. Even before I left the rehab hospital, they had like an outside patio, and they'd actually outside area with a picnic table and stuff. I never saw anybody eat there. Maybe some staff did. But they also, they had a gravel walkway with stones in it. They had gravel. They had grass. They had, and it was intentionally set up. One day the therapist said, okay, we're going outside. We're going to go four-wheeling. And, she had me do all kinds of walking on different surfaces. The brain learns by being challenged. You have to mix up your routine. If you're stuck somewhere and not making a lot of progress, it's likely because you're doing the same thing over and over. Your brain's lazy, and it'll just get used to it, and you don't learn from it anymore. So, mix it up. I've found that's the way the brain makes blueprints. That's the way neuroplasticity works. So, always challenging your brain is a good thing. Of course, when I say challenge, I don't mean ignoring safety, because safety is really a huge issue. And let me just take a minute to say, or 30 seconds to say, that the biggest issue, you can fall. I have a friend who fell on her affected hip, of course, and broke it. I mean, we always fall to the affected side, 90%, I would guess. Because we're weak to that side and our balance is off to that side. That's one reason everybody leans the other way. For two reasons: try and get that hip up enough so that their toe doesn't drag anymore, but also they're scared of falling that way. I can balance on one leg, but I can't do it. My brain won't let me lift up that other leg and get far enough to my left to stand on that leg. Now, if I touch a table and move myself over a quarter inch, I can do it. But we're all scared of going that way. So, but the thing about a fall is, yeah, you can hurt yourself, but the main thing that you do when you fall is you really hurt your confidence. And that can take a long time to come back because you've introduced fear, and fear is not a good thing. We could do a whole hour on fear and try how to get rid of it, or some techniques that I've kind of tried to do to get rid of it. I still have it in not real fear, but my brain still thinks about it. We're all trying to get back to natural. We're trying, before our stroke, we didn't think about moving. You're sitting there in the hospital, like Bob said, sitting there thinking and thinking. What you're thinking is, how the hell do I move? I don't remember how to move. Well, you can't remember how to move because you have no memory of moving. It's something your brain does automatically. And post-stroke, like 14 years, I still think about, okay, left in front of right. Think about every damn step I take. On the other hand, when I get irritated about that, I think, Ralph, you're walking.
Right.
So
gratefulness.
So falling will really hurt your confidence, and fear is a big factor. I was walking a guy one time. I was teaching him with a gait belt to lose the quad cane. I was walking him on a gait belt, letting him do the thing. And of course, when you do that, I'm trying to be totally neutral. I'm not pulling on him at all. I'm just there for safety. And I said to him, his nickname's Boo. I said, Boo, I seen you do this in the backyard while you're listening to the Atlanta Braves games. I seen you go from your chair back into the house without your cane. You know you can do this. I said, it's 90% fear. He has turned to me. Of course, I got him on the gait belt, so when he turns to me, our noses are about 6 inches apart, and he says, try 100%. And what happens is when you have fear, it's taking up some portion of your brain. It's like worry. When you worry, you can't be as effective when you worry about something in life, stroke or no stroke, because that worry's taken up part of your processing power. So falling is safety's. I profess safety all the time. If you watch, even if I can do something, I do it next to the railing, or I tap the chair. I put a chair next to me and I tap it, or I say, see the chair here? I got this chair here so I can grab onto it if I need to. Because you don't want to destroy your forward progress and your confidence with a fall. Because I think that part's worse than, unless you really break something or get really seriously hurt. I think that the lack of confidence is the biggest problem with a fall, bigger than the physical usually.
It'll knock you down a little bit, but but again, it's all about getting back up and try it again.
Right.
And, I mean, I was using a stair post to get up out of the wheelchair.
I know.
And then one time I was doing it, and unfortunately for me, I lost the use on that affected leg, and it just folded. And so I started to go down. And even though I was trying to hold myself up on that post with my arms, I was getting tired. I just needed somebody to help raise me about another 4 inches so I can get back to that wheelchair seat. And, I was holding on. The wife finally ran over. She helped me up, but she had to, I'm about 220. And so she had to kind of lift 220 pounds, just 4 inches to get to that wheelchair. So it was a little bit of a challenge, but my big next major epic move is going to be trying to walk up at some point 20 stairs. I mean, I read where everybody, you know, there's different people doing all kinds of walking, and I know that the stairs are more of a challenge than a walk, but I have it in my brain that that's something that I'm challenging myself. I want to do it. And I don't know, maybe within the next few days, I may go for doing 20 stairs. Just,
go ahead.
well, I was going to say, you know, I couldn't raise my arm worth anything. And one of the first things I had was a little itch on the end of my nose. And somebody asked me, well, can you touch your nose? No, I can't. And okay, just like what you said, you take the good and teach and pattern, and I could go ahead and, oh boy, that feel good. And then it was like, okay, let's go one higher. Let's go for the forehead. Now I can touch the forehead. Let's go for another one. Let's go for the back of the head. Can I touch that? That was a little bit more challenging, but I got the use where I could put the arm and my hand in back of my neck. The next one was being able to put headphones on. Before, my headphone was, I'll put it this way, and maybe I'll take this one and move it that way. And that was the best I could do. Now I just put them on like it's nothing. So each little task, you know, whether it's you're in the kitchen trying to wash dishes, a couple of days ago, I washed both hands under the hot water. And that felt really good to be able to go ahead and rub and fold, you know, with soap to really wash both hands at the same time. So little tasks come a long way.
Good bilateral therapy. When you're in the shower and just, you know, you rub yourself this way, that way, even if you do it one at a time, do that arm in your hair, squeeze the thing, you know, do everything the same. And the affected hand will pick up and make it easier by doing it with the unaffected hand. So you can just rub that soap in all kinds of patterns up and down your arms, shampooing. It's real good for bilateral therapy. But see, Bob, you've got the tiger by the tail and you're swinging them around a lot harder than most people do. And that's why it's serving you. And, you know, that's why I think this is a good conversation, because I'm always trying to tell people, get on it, you know, get over,
right.
You know, get to the acceptance, take responsibility for your recovery and get on it. Take advantage of the neuroplasticity that you have. So, you know, you're doing a great job. I would encourage you to go up the steps, but only in a safe way. I don't know if you have a railing on the other side. You sent me a picture. No.
It's just the one rail. Well, what I learned when I did that probably about 2 weeks ago. I took about 3 or 4 steps.
Yeah, I know. I saw you.
Just because I wanted to do it. The brain was like, okay. And so I was like, let's see if I could do it. And I was able to take 3 or 4. The leg held up, but it was getting tired. And I kept thinking, well, what goes up's got to come back down. And I better just go ahead, and the same way I went up, I should come back down.
Yeah,
so
when that leg gets tired, it's time to bail.
Yeah, so I started backing off, and I came down those 4 steps, got back into the wheelchair, and you know, but that was a huge success. It told me that I could do it. It could be done. So now I'm just working, you know, with these high leg movements and doing more and more, putting the weight and trying to work on balance. You know, at some point, I think I'll be ready, and I'll go for trying to do those 20 stairs. Now, I have a lot of people that tell me, well, you're doing the hard one before you do the easy one. You should be doing more walking before you try to do stairs. But I'm like, I don't care what, you know, if it's, I wake up and all of a sudden I think about it, and you know, I kind of tell my brain, I want to do this. And so I'm challenging myself, and I'm going to go for it. So it's just a matter of timing, but you're all right. I mean, you have to do it safely. So
okay. You asked, I know a number of people, I can name two of them, Rebecca Finch and John Loomis. You ask them about stairs and they'll tell you that stairs are the key to walking. Doing a lot of stairs.
That's true.
Your problem, I would encourage you to do it, but I would encourage you to do it safely. Maybe the thing to do is, one of the things I profess is, the first time you go to a doctor's appointment, well, after I started walking, I said, I'm going to walk up the steps and down the steps. I'm not going to take an elevator one floor. It's therapy. Therapy's all around you. Well, all those steps in commercial buildings, they have really nice railings on both sides. Usually there's steel or concrete, but most steps are, even if yours are padded, you're up in the possibility of it being more than hurting your confidence if you fall down a flight of stairs. And your problem is that, let's see, the way your stairs, you're right-sided, so you're going to be good going up, but coming down, which is harder, you have no railing. Except with your,
well, I take both hands and I keep them on the railing. And so as I'm walking up and walking down, I would always keep hands on the railing, and it helped. But
one thing you can do is go up those. Okay, see, here's adapting. The people that can adapt and think about things instead of going, oh my God, I don't have a rail over there. Okay. The motion is slightly different, but you're going to be accomplishing the same thing. So if you go up forward, then keep those hands on that left railing, and then just back down the steps for now.
Right. I'm not going to turn around and try to go down. And I know there's a trick to, I can't remember, there was a saying about which leg or foot you lead with to go up to heaven, they say, and then down to, there's a certain process of which one you should go up with and which one you should lead with going down. I don't remember all that, but
not all therapists agree. Hey, Jed, not all therapists agree on that. Most do, but one of the things that I did was, after I got walking good, I actually trained myself to not think about which foot I'm going to go up. So if I come walk, I'm always pointing at the stuff where I do this. So my steps are right out there. So when I come out of the garage and go up the 3 steps, I go up with whatever foot's, like we used to before the stroke. I actually had to train myself because I used to take like a little half step to make sure. I don't remember what I was leading with. They'll tell you to lead with your, I don't even remember.
Yeah, I know there's a saying that a lot of them like to talk about, but hey, whatever works, however you're going to do it, do you, make it happen. Just, but again, it's all mindset and attitude.
Right.
It is. I've had 23 falls, and I have counted. I had 23 falls, but guess what? I got up 24 times because I had to, and I have my furniture arranged. So if I fall a certain way, I can grab hold to something, or I can slide down if I can do that. And then I sit down and I focus, and then I say, okay, this is how I'm going to get up. And that's what I do. I make sure that I do that. I guess I'm kind of like a maniac with that. I just need to figure out what's my next move to do and just do it. And have no fear with it. I just don't fear it. I want to do it. I want to walk. I want to use my hand, and I can't do that if I sit up and do nothing. So when I fell down about 3 weeks ago, I looked and I sat down for a moment, and I went to my ottoman and I pushed up on my ottoman, got up, sat on my ottoman for a minute, and then went in the kitchen and got me some water. So I was fine.
Yeah, got to stop falling at some point, hopefully.
Yeah, I know. I've stopped. That was a balance thing that day. I know exactly why I fell. I know exactly why I fell.
I can tell you why most people fall. It's when you let your attention go somewhere else and such. One of the things that's important, until you really get good with balance and everything, is stay focused on the walking or whatever you're doing, because when your mind wanders, guess what? It's like fear or confidence, a chunk of your brain's, no longer being applied to that task. So it's easier. So Bob, maybe find a set of commercial steps next time you go to the doctors and try them, because they got railings on both sides. It's harder to go down. If you watch, say, Jenny posted a stairs video, and she goes right up the middle like nothing. No, like you wouldn't even know she had a stroke. Coming down, about half the speed though. And that's true with anybody. So turning around and coming down is more difficult. I found that I would tag my heel on my affected foot. I was afraid to put it too far forward on the step, so I would end up tagging it on the step above when I went to put it down. Or I wouldn't tag it on the step, but by the time I put it down, I'd be scraping my heel on the riser on that step because I was afraid to get too far forward. So coming down's tricky. But, you know, John Loomis would tell you, you know, take 2 steps at a time. He does.
Right.
He does.
Right.
Build up, you know, because it's real good for building up that leg. Of course, the first thing you want to do is, like, you know, get away from the up with one. Because, see, when the other thing is when they teach you that, you know, go up with the affected or whichever one you lead with, they're really teaching you to do what I call play catch up. That's where you put one foot up and then you play catch up with the other foot. You just get it to that one step. Well, you know, the way we used to go up steps is, you know, you go up to the next one and then up to the next one. So that's what you want to work on. And, you know, John does a stair climbing challenge every year. And I mean, they get him on TV even. Well, he dresses up in superhero costumes to draw attention to stroke awareness and such. But I mean, they do a tower climb, and I don't forget how many flights it is, 10 flights, and they climb it, you know, like 10 times in an hour.
Wow.
See how many times you can do it. Yeah, he's doing it as a stroke survivor. Some of the other people a lot of the other people are not. But, you know, like I went to the I had my stroke training for the senior games. I went to the senior games a year later in my hometown. I won 3 gold medals because nobody in my age group showed up but me. So, so they said, "Oh, you can go on to the States." And I thought, why would I want to do that? And I said, yeah, I'm going to go on to the States. And I went and I won my category. Guess why? Because there was nobody else there riding their bicycle with a stroke.
Wow.
And, you know, if I had known that in my local games, I was second overall, and I rode my mountain bike. If I'd known it was going to be a minute off in 40 minutes, I would have been on the road bike. I could have won the damn thing. Not that it's about that. What I was proving was not that I could win. I was proving that I could get back up that 23rd time, Brenda, you know, and do it. You know, because the first time I went to get on the bike, I went, oh my God, it took me like 2 minutes to step over the bike and pull it up between my legs. And I went, how am I going to stop? I'm going to fall over because I can't, you know, I'm not quick enough. So I put it away for about 10 months. It's funny because somebody reminded me last night, they asked me if I'd ever been to Edisto Island. As I was thinking about it, I thought, wow, Edisto's where I took my bike to the beach the very first time and got on. I figured the beach was better than concrete, sand, and so I got on back on my bike, and nope, no training wheels, a regular bike. And when I rode down the beach, I can't tell you, I don't know if I've been that high since. It was like I could pedal. It was like, wow. I don't feel like I had the stroke until it was time to stop, because stopping is a bit of a trick. Actually, what I used to do at here was, while I was training myself, I'd come in and I'd get the railing. There's a fence, a railing right near my driveway. I'd go off the driveway onto the grass and grab the railing and stop the bike with me upright and then get off. But eventually I learned how to do it. And eventually, talking about getting back to automatic, so I rode my bike one time for North Carolina Stroke Association, 24.5 miles. I hadn't ridden my bike in more than 10 miles in about way before my stroke, 10 years or more, since I've been training for triathlons in my 40s. But so I knew I could do it. But my chain came off. I was always hesitant. You know, when you're young, you put your generally, depending if you're left or right-handed, I put my left foot on the pedal and paddle with my right foot, and then when you get going fast enough, you throw the leg over. Well, I was really hesitant to do that after my stroke because I was having a hard time getting on and off the bike. And so my chain came off in the middle of this ride, and I went, oh, crap, I have to get my hands all greasy. So I put it back on, and it was very, very slight uphill. So I don't know. I just didn't think about it. And all of a sudden, I noticed I'd paddled with my foot, put my foot on, and threw my leg over. And I went, wow, you just did that. It was something I was afraid of. And I went back into automatic mode, and I did it. And now I do it all the time because I know I can do it. So, you know, a lot of times what we really want to do is build up confidence like that, not fall and take away confidence.
Yeah.
So,
does anyone have any questions that they want to ask Ralph?
No, I just want to say thank you for putting together the Zoom call, and I need to probably get going here.
I want to say one thing.
But go ahead, Ralph. What?
I just want to say one thing to Jed, which is I texted Tim the other day. I haven't heard back from him. I think maybe today or tomorrow I'm just going to call him, see if I get him on the phone. He must be busy. Or I'm trying to help Jed's son, teach him how to walk him with a gait belt and such, because he's willing to do it. And if you have somebody that's, you know, like I went and did that with a lot of people, but it's not something you can suggest because, well, like one of the people I was helping locally, she's about 5'3" and about 130 pounds, and he's about 280 and 6'2", and a Hoyer lift. He can't really walk, but you know, a lot of times, like the spouse isn't willing, they're scared, or I've had them where they would end up arguing, could cause personal issues. It's hard to get somebody to walk you with a gait belt, and Jed's son's willing to give it a whirl. I think it'll make a world of difference.
He should be right back to you, Ralph.
He's what?
He should be right back to you.
Okay.
His son just came up from Texas to stay with us for a while.
I figured there was something because he was, you know, he wrote me a real nice long email and everything. He was very interested in doing what he can to help you. So
he's great.
I figured he was just busy. I just want to tell you, I texted him. It's taken a while. When we first planned this, I was in the middle of a bunch of stuff, and it's going to take, you know, I'm going to talk to him for an hour on the phone, I'm sure.
He'll definitely be back to you.
Okay.
Just that he hasn't seen his son for a while, and he just arrived, just flew in last night.
Like I said, I figured life was there was something going on in life that he hadn't gotten back to me. But I just wanted you to know that that, you know, I'd made the effort, and
I knew that. I assumed that. Thank you very much.
No, it's okay.
Appreciate it, Ralph. I really do.
I want him to, you know, he's willing to learn, and it'll make a tremendous difference to you. And, you know, we were talking about losing your confidence. Bye, Bob. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We were talking about
thank you.
Losing your confidence when you fall. I mean, the biggest danger of falling to me is, well, of course you can get hurt, but when you fall, you lose your confidence. I think it's happened to you some.
Yes, it has.
And that's if you hit your funny bone and, you know, it hurts for a couple weeks, that's one thing. But if you lose your confidence, that can last more than a couple of weeks, and it really, you know,
definitely affects your rehab.
Right, because it introduces fear, and now you're afraid, and it's kind of like a spiral down, or a self-fulfilling prophecy, in that, okay, now you got this fear, so you don't have as much brain to do the task, so you're more likely to fall again. If you fall again, then, you know, you just say, oh, you know, after a couple of those, you know, that spiral's going down instead of up.
Yes, I've experienced it. Yeah,
and after a couple of falls, you start going, I don't know if I should even be trying this, and that's not a good place to get to.
Not
So
at all.
what I'm hoping with Tim is we can, get him trained up and he has the will and, get that spiraling up instead of down. Mm-hmm. And, you spend enough time with Tim on the gait belt, you're going to start to get some of that confidence back.
Yeah, that'd be great.
You're not alone in this. This is it's funny because, people, I say, send me a picture, a video of you walking, and, about 99 times, well, I've only seen 100, maybe all but 5 times out of the 100 videos I've looked at, I end up telling them the same thing. We're all dealing with the same issues, lack of confidence, fear of falling, upper leg weakness. Every time somebody sends me a video, I tell them the same basic things: do heel raises, marching, knee bends, and weight bearing. And once you get weight bearing going, start working on balance, because those are, keys to walking. When I talk to Tim, I'll also get you involved in some kind of a counter program. I'll send him a link to one of those grab bars, because you can be doing some stuff safely on your own without him that will help, build up that weight bearing and leg strength, so that when he walks with you, you have more strength and you can, progress better.
That'd be great, Ralph. I really appreciate that.
No, I mean, it's what, this is what a lot of us have chosen to do, right, Brenda?
That's true. That's true. I am one person that I know that your information that you provided for me helped me out a lot. And just, you were talking about the grass. I walked on the grass for the first time 2 days ago, and it felt so good just walking on a different surface. And it was a challenge because I didn't know whether, I had to go around the little water meters they have here at the townhouse I'm in. So it was like going around the concrete water meters, then in the grass, and not knowing like how deep the grass is, and walking. It was just a different surface, but it felt so good to do that.
Right. It's the thing about grass is, you never know if your foot's going to be pitched a little bit this way or a little bit this way or forwards or down, because you step on a clump and wherever your weight is, that's the way it's going to go. So that's really good for you in a sense. It's not good for you if you're not ready to do it, because, if you don't have balance, it can cause a fall. But once you progress to a certain point, you got to get out there and get in the grass, get in the gravel. Start doing curbs. It's almost harder than a curb for some people. I was surprised at this. I didn't have trouble with it, but I've taken 5 or 6 people to physical therapy for a year and a half. So we went 150 times, twice a week for 75 weeks. And one of the things that's really difficult for people is like going up a curb cut, or like a wheelchair cut, that ramp. It's actually harder going down. I had my stroke in the North Carolina mountains, so I had to, there's nothing level where I lived, except a few parking lots that got bulldozed. But, going up and down minor grades is tricky. So is going off a curb the first time. Most people stand there and they're like paralyzed. Why are they paralyzed? Because they're scared. So I get on the other side of the curb. I've done it with gait belt, or I just put out my hand. I don't know that I could stop somebody. But the thing is, if you put out your hand and you spot them and you're there for them, now all of a sudden they're not as afraid. They got more brain to do it. They're more likely to be able to do it successfully. I never dropped anybody, but I always wondered, like with people that were close to my weight, what I would be able to do. Out there. Of course, your son's, probably at least your size, and he's young.
He's pretty strong.
He looks like
confident he's with me.
Yeah. The video I saw, John Loomis shared the video with me. And the video I saw of him, he looked like he was very fit. And
yeah, he is.
And big and strong, which is good.
Sometimes I actually, when we're done walking, I'll walk a few steps without him actually holding me or the cane. And I'm confident and I can do it. But I know he's right there to grab me, never let me go down.
Well, one thing
it feels really good walking just those few steps.
one thing you can do is go around to your front, put his arms out, and walk backwards so that he's just right there in front of you.
Yeah.
Because you're
I mentioned that to you too. We do something like that. He walks backwards, and we grasp our hands above our heads, head high, and he walks backwards, and I walk into him.
Yeah.
And I feel very good doing that.
Right. Well, first of all, you have a visual. You know he's there because you're staring right into his eyes. And, you know, when you talk about confidence, there are a lot of little things like that that'll really help. You know, you can, if you think about these things, you can, you know, so if you got somebody walking backwards, I do it in the pool all the time. And when we go sideways, sidestepping, that would be something. I want to see another video before I go, you know, telling you what I think you should do, because I don't want to tell you things that you're not ready for yet. But when I just was thinking about it in the pool, like we kind of like waltz. I put out my hands. If they want to touch them, they can. If they, you know, they usually will in the beginning, and then they'll try and, you know, light touch and get away from them. But I still leave them out there. And we kind of like waltz. It's like kind of like a waltzing, you know, when you go sidestepping. But sidestepping is really good for you. So I'll get with Tim, and we'll get another video shot, and we'll get him. I mean, he's already knows some what he's doing because of what I hear you describe to me. And you know, so I'm just going to help him with any kind of tips I can help him with, and you know, maybe get you some things that I think would benefit you. But the biggest benefit would be if he focuses his attention on you, and we develop a little program for you, and we get you at the counter doing things safely, locking off your wheelchair, pull up with a grab bar. You have any trouble, you just sit back down in the wheelchair. It's safe. Well, we went longer than we thought, but there's, you know.
That's okay. You educated us, and I really appreciate the fact that you took time out of your busy day to talk to us about covering a lot of subjects that need to be covered. So thank you very much.
Well, I mean, this is part of my busy day. This is what I do. So I'm not like taking it out of it. I'm including it as a part of the work. But I appreciate that you're appreciative, and you know, mainly we're all just trying to get the word out. You know, help the next guy along.